Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, That Model Railway Guy, for my first review of the year, and today, instead of just a loco, I've got a whole train to share with you. This is the recently released J70 Tram pack from Rapido, which contains the J70 Tram engine that they formerly made for Model Rail magazine a while back, and also two of the Wisbech Upwell bogie coaches. These were originally made for the Titfield Thunderbolt sets, but given that the J70 Trams were also heavily associated with the Wisbech Upwell Tramway, Rapido had the brilliant idea to offer these all as a pack. That said, I believe the tram engines were usually goods locos and didn't pull passenger trains all that often, but personally, I still think this was a great move from Rapido, as I can see a lot of people wanting these sets, myself included. So let's take a look at the general specs for this pack then. As you've seen, the pack contains the loco and two bogie coaches, number 7 and number 8, and these all come in the Great Eastern Stratford brown livery, with the loco itself featuring a nice ultramarine livery on the skirts too. I think when it was in this livery, the loco should technically be referred to as a C53 tram engine, but I'll keep referring to it as a J70 anyway, since that's what most people will think of it as. The loco comes with a Next 18 socket for DCC control, and in fact this is one of the sound-fitted versions too, so mine has a decoder pre-installed. That does of course push the price up somewhat, making the RRP for this set £369.95, although you can get it at the retailers for slightly less at £314.45. And of course, if you don't want DCC sound, there is a standard set available too. That has an RRP of £269.95, so £100 less than the sound-fitted versions, and those sell at the retailers for around £229.45. While those prices are high, do bear in mind that this is a loco and two carriages, so I don't think that's too bad. I mean, there are some large locos that sell for more than this, where here you get a full train to run. So diving right in with the detail, I'll start off with the loco first and then move on to the coaches. Overall, this tram engine looks great, and we've got the nice wood panel moulding down the sides. I believe this livery from the Great Eastern Railway is a painted brown rather than just natural wood, so that's why the colour has a slightly flat appearance rather than a teak effect. We also have a few window openings on the side here, and these have separately fitted frames as well as being glazed. You can also see the number plate on the side here. That's very nicely printed, although sadly we don't get any etched versions in the detail pack, which would have been nice to have had. And before anyone else points it out, yes, I do know that 127 is commonly thought to be Toby from the Railway series and Thomas the Tank. I can already see the comments below this video where people are going, look, it's Toby. Anyway, below the number plate we also have these incredibly fine chains fixed to the outside of the body. I believe these were used for holding up the side skirts for maintenance, and it's really nice to see that Rapido have gone to the trouble of including these. Speaking of the side skirts, as I said earlier, these are done in the lovely ultramarine blue that the Great Eastern Railway used, and I believe this is the first time Rapido have produced the model in this livery, having previously only made LNER and British Railways variants. The GER lettering looks fantastic though, the printing is nice and sharp, and we also have the red lining around the outside of the panel too, which works so well on this livery. Similarly, on the buffer beam, we also have the loco's number printed again in that lovely ornate lettering, with more red lining in this area too. A standout feature for this loco as well are the cow catchers fitted to the front, which really show off that this is a tram engine. I believe Rapido were intending to include an alternate version of the cow catchers without this cutout, but it wasn't supplied in the detail bag. That said, I think if you contact Rapido about it, they are sending them out free of charge, which is just really good customer service. And while we're taking a look at this area, I should also point out that we do have sprung buffers on this loco. Not that I think we'd expect any different from a high quality model like this, but it's always good to mention, especially with them being metal too. Moving up, you can see we do have some nice separately fitted lamp irons on the ends too, with one in the centre and then another one either side. The front doors on the tram engine have been left open, which I believe is how they often ran since the crews would get very hot inside. Remember, this is still a steam engine, even if it doesn't look like a conventional one. Of course, you do get the option of fitting these yourself, as they're included in the detail bag, along with some extra window frames too. Plus we have some additional pipework in there as well which can be fitted too, some of which is intended for the coaches. And also, it's worth mentioning that this detail bag is resealable, which is a small thing, but a very welcome feature in my opinion. Taking a look at the roof, you can see Rapido clearly haven't let up on the detail here either. The chimney in particular is really nice with that very fine etched grille over the top. I'm guessing that's supposed to be some sort of spark arrestor. We also have a really nice bell on the roof too, which has been picked out in a nice metallic colour, which isn't too shiny or too matte, allowing it to fit in with the rest of the detail really quite nicely. As for the cab detail, well, it's pretty hard to see with the body being so enclosed, but we do actually have a full boiler modelled in the interior. Hopefully you can just about see some of the controls and the smoke box through the gaps in the doors. Additionally, there are also separately fitted handbrakes at either end too, which really stand out as very fine parts indeed. Also, I forgot to mention it earlier, but I do just want to point out the nice wire handrails on either side of the doors too, which look great. So that's a look over the Loco, but now we've got the coaches to check out. Once again, these are modelled really well, featuring a lot of nice wooden panelling. The livery is the same brown as the tram engine too, meaning that these all look fantastic when they're running together. Again, we have some nice lettering along the sides, denoting where the third class and the first class sections were. And in the middle of the coach, we also have the number and the Great Eastern Railway crest printed nicely below this. In fact, the detail on that crest is really impressive, some of the best I've ever seen in my opinion. One of the things that really sets the coaches apart though is the balconies at each end. There's so much fine detail here, it's really difficult to take it all in with the steps and those really ornate barriers to stop people from falling out. You can even see a little separately fitted handbrake too. Below these we have some full plates. I'm not entirely sure what these were used for. I can't imagine they were used for crossing between carriages, but maybe it was just a different time back then. These do move to lie flat, although as you can see some of mine don't really have much movement, and because they're so delicate I don't really want to force them too much. No sprung buffers on these coaches, but either side of the coupling you can see we do have some more very fine fitted chains here. And if I lift this one up, you can just see that underneath we have a very tiny number plate here, once again printed really well. And I just want to point out the bogie detail on these carriages as well as the visible underframe detail too, which is really nice given that this area would be easier to see on tramways. Like with the Loco, the roofs have some nice moulded detail too, and also this very fine separately fitted wire which runs along the entire length. As if that wasn't enough though, the roofs are also fully removable, simply unclipping to allow access to the seats for fitting passengers. What's also really nice to see is that Rapido have gone to the trouble of tooling up different versions for each coach, as you can see here with the first class section in number 7. And of course, Rapido have gone to the trouble of modelling the underside of the roof too, complete with light fittings. So overall, these are a great companion to the Loco. I'm sure they'll all look fantastic running together, and on that note, let's see how well the Loco performs. So here we have the J70 in the fiddle yard on my layout. I normally do this section on the rolling road, but with the skirts hiding the wheels, there wouldn't have been much to see. But as the Loco pulls away, you can see we do have a very nice slow speed. And yeah, it's a lovely smooth runner with next to no motor noise. This is really just the sound of it running along the track. I will say that the wheelbase is very short on this Loco, and so it's a bit more prone to stalling than other 060 Locos. That said, as long as your track is level and clean, you should be alright. Although I have to admit, I am considering fitting a stay alive to this for running with the sound on, which obviously requires a bit more power. As you can see, it's great in both directions, and it's worth mentioning as well that even though they're hidden by the skirts, we do have all the connecting rods and valve gear included too. And if you're wondering, by the way, this Loco has been fully running for 30 minutes in each direction, but yeah, as you can see, it's a really nice little runner. You can see now I've got the J70 on a scenic part of the layout, and as I was just speaking about the sound, let's take a listen to some of those now before we put the Loco through its paces round the layout. So overall, this is a really nice little pack. The J70 locos went down really well with modelers a few years ago when they were originally released, and these coaches work incredibly well with them to create a little train that you could have possibly seen on the Wisbech Upwell Tramway. The sound adds a lot to the model too, especially with having some unique features like the bell. I do have to say that both the Loco and the coaches seem a little bit rigid as they run round the layout. The Loco in particular will find every little bump on your track, so similar to the Rapido Hunslet, I don't think the wheels have any spring to them. This does make it prone to stalling, especially when starting off with the sound turned on, but again, like the Hunslets, I found this was rectified by installing a stay alive, so I will have to investigate that in the future. Regarding the coaches too, I did have to loosen off the bogie screws on one coach as they were so tight it was derailing on curves constantly. That said, it literally took about 10 seconds to do, and now the coach runs perfectly, so something to maybe consider if you're experiencing derailments yourself. But overall, these are very minor little niggles which don't take away from these otherwise fantastic models, ones that I'm very glad to now have in my collection. Once again, it's great to see Rapido leaning into the pre-grouping era with this latest release too, and with more pre-grouping models to come in the future, they really are flying the flag for this era at the moment. I'm certainly excited to see what else they have to come in the future, but that's going to be it for today. Don't forget to like the video and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, but thank you so much for watching everyone, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!